Karibu sana. You're welcome to take us through the message of the day. Karibu.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Brothers, good morning.
Morning, bro.
Yeah, you can hear me. You can also let me see your faces and just wave. Yeah, I was hoping we'll see each other. Yeah, it's good to see you, Joseph there, Shadrach, Ondui, Galia, Washira. It's good to see you there. I think Julius is trying to unmute. Ringo, it's good to see you there. Austin, Matthews, it's good to see you there. Stephen, Onyaga. Yeah, you see the good thing about meeting with on Zoom, or rather, I don't know whether it's a bad thing, is that if we don't see people, it becomes very gloomy. And you can easily feel that you're talking to yourself. Yet I actually have 168 devices on. This is nice, but I'm really grateful to see us all today, and thank you for taking care of our wives, our sisters, so that they can have a great time. I hope you did, and and also that we also taking care of our children as well. So today we're going to look at when men lead. What comes to your mind when that comes, when you had that topic, when men lead? Let me indulge you a little bit and hear from you. What came to your mind? You can either unmute or write on the chat. What came to your mind when you had that topic, when men lead? Responsibility. Responsibility. Collins Onyaga is saying responsibility. What comes to your mind when you hear when men lead?
There's clarity.
There's what? Clarity or what? You said what? What did you say?
Yeah, clarity.
There's clarity. You know, when men lead, there's clarity. Lincoln says influence. Kimanzi says something positive happens. Wow. My friend Maganga says they fulfill God's obligation in men's roles. Francis Dambuki says taking charge. Silas says expectations. Odor, I think this is Austin, says stability. Ocheng says biblical authority. Wow. Anne says security. Colin says being firm. Wow. All right. Titus says we are the head.
Simon, I can say something. If you don't
Go ahead,
mind.
Dukes. Go ahead.
For me, what comes to mind, there's a Swahili
Oh, Duke, I
saying
don't think we can
that
hear you. You
says,
can just type or put off your camera. Maybe
"Penye
you'll be.
wazee hapaharibiki jambo." So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Unless, yeah. If you put off your camera, I think it will be better. Go ahead.
now? And now?
Yeah. Go ahead, Duke.
And now? Yeah. So I was saying there's a Swahili saying that says, "Penye wazee hapaharibiki jambo." So everything is good when they are men. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Penye wazee hapaharibiki jambo. Thank you, Duke. You're saying you're tuning in from Kijabe. Titus says we are the head. They says first of God's human creation. Yeah, Stephen says it is noticeable when men lead. Sylvester says boy child reclaiming their God-given role. Sylvester is trying to be quite philosophical on that. Eric says humility, Samsung. Oh, someone by the name Samsung. I think that's a gadget. Is saying positivity, positivity. Galia, putting things in order. A sign of power. That is Franklin. Nation says exactly as God intended. So many of you have put. I can't read everything, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you're saying. I think Shikami is also saying decisiveness, risk-taking, assertiveness, hierarchy, focused thinking. Now, yesterday I was at a barrio. I got sad news in the course of the week, so I had to travel. And the barrio of an 8-month-old baby who had passed on. And so my dad calls me and tells me, son, I think you need to be here. We need to put our minds together and help out the situation. It happened that the lady who is my cousin is unmarried, so she had twins, and one of them succumbed after 8 months. It was, of course, a very sad moment, but we put our minds together. We're able to help out and lay to rest the baby. While we were speaking with the men there, men talk, and we pulled some seats right at the barrio, and we were seated at the exit while we were talking. Different things. Men were sharing different things. My dad was there, my uncle. Different people were speaking different things. And one of the things that I could pick heavily is that the sense of heaviness of heart of the older generation when they look at the younger generation. One of the things that the men were saying, referring to different young men around, is that they didn't know what to do, because it seemed that there is a sense of lack of responsibility that is not being taken up by the younger generation. And it was, I think I remember my dad saying that we are in an existential disaster. In other words, we are in a place where the situation is not so good. He was referring to a young man who was around, and he said that the young man only showed up to just have a meal, whereas they were looking for men to actually prepare the graveyard, and they were looking for men to make sure that there are tables properly set and arrangement of everything for the burial to take place. They could not find the young man. So he showed up quite clueless of what is happening. And you and I know that the times that we are living in, it's quite interesting that that men are not as taking responsibility as they should. And like you're saying, when you get the title When Men Lead, the issues of responsibility come in. The issues of decisiveness, risk-taking, assertiveness, the matters of providing direction, balance, and evolution, the matters of capability and order, humility, all these words are coming from you guys. And so I want us to anchor our thoughts on Numbers chapter 13 and 14. then I think you're going to ask yourself that question as we keep reading that chapter, those two chapters. Pretty much we'll focus on those two chapters for our session today. And I want us to think about that question or that statement, when men lead. Sometimes men can lead and things can really go haywire. You know, depending on what kind of man are leading. You see, that's the other question you have to ask yourself, depending on the person who is leading, the kind of man, because we have, like in our country, we have men leading, don't we? But why is it that we keep talking about the heightened, you know, the graph on corruption going higher and higher? So it's not so much men leading, it's also the kind of men who are leading. The kind of men who are leading. So as we read this, I would like you to ask the kind of man you are and the kind of leadership you are providing. First of all, for those who are married, for your own household, the ones who are in the other seasons of life, maybe you're in the singles ministry, what kind of leadership role are you playing for the sisters in the ministry? Do you understand your assignment as a man? What are some of the things that hinder you from carrying out the assignment that God has given you? Because in chapter in Numbers chapter 13, 18 to 20, we are seeing a situation here. The children of Israel, or rather the men, women, those who left from Egypt, have been assigned the promised land. This land had been spoken of to their ancestors, that is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And God had sworn on oath that I will give you this land. I will give you this land. And this land is going to be your inheritance. And that's where your children will be like the sand of the seashores, or like the stars, as numerous and countable. And it's a situation here. I don't know whether you've ever read, you've spent time reading the book of Numbers. It's quite, well, there's a lot of depressive times in the book of Numbers. There's a lot of rebelliousness in the book of Numbers. Well, Ras, God is trying to take these people to where he saw to their fathers and their ancestors, he will. But something is going to happen here. I know this is a very familiar story, and I want us to read together and see what's going on. In verse 17, Moses, of course, is told by God to make sure that you go send out some people to investigate and see the land, because I want to set you there. The investigation of the land, or exploring the land, is not really to say whether you're going to take it or not. That was not the assignment. The assignment was see what God has put for you. See what God has created for you. As a matter of fact, see how beautiful land God is giving you. And so it's just to paint the picture of the land. That's what it was all about. Paint the picture. Look at what Moses tells the people. He says, when Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. Okay. See what the land is like. Think about it. Maybe I'm sending Kevin, and these are the instructions I'm giving Kevin. I'm saying, go, Kevin, and yeah, Kevin, Silas, Irungu, you guys, I want you to do something because we're going to settle in that land. So this is the assignment. See what the land is like, whether the people who live there are strong or weak. Are they few or many? See what kind of land do they live in? Is it a good land or is it a bad land? See also what kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled? Are they fortified? You can see these details, guys. All right, then how is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? You know, this is a place that they've never been. The Israelites have never been here. They don't know what kind of land this is. Moses has not also been there. So he's sending his most reliable men. He's going to choose 12 men. And these 12 men are the leaders of Israel, leaders of the tribes of Israel. 12 men, guys, 12 men. Now they're going to survey this land for 40 days, guys, for 40 good days. That's a long time. It was not going to be something that they're going to go overnight, like they did with when they're going to take up Jericho. This land, they're going to spend 40 days and 40 nights surveying the land. Then it tells them, do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. So don't just give us a report, but give us evidence. Okay. We'll pick what you're telling us, but also it will be great if we saw, if we saw what you bring from this land. We want to encourage the people because God has told us that we're going to take this land and we're going to settle here. So I want the leaders. The leaders. This is one of the names. If you read verse 3, it says, so at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These were the names. Verse 4, it says, I'm not showing you on the screen. You can read on your Bibles, verse chapter 13. I'm reading verse 4 of Numbers chapter 13. It says, these are their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, son of Zakur. From the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat, son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. From the tribe of Issachar, Igal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun, or Nun, depends on how you pronounce it. And so Moses is going to later on call Hoshea Joshua. He's going to give him that name, Joshua. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gemali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, son of Michael or Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Vushi. From the tribe of Gad, Gil, son of Mali. You can, guys, paint the picture. Maybe Moses is standing before the crowd and reading these names. And he says, guys, these are the people I'm sending out. And these are the people who are going to give us a report about the land. They're going to be there for 40 days and 40 nights. And what these guys are going to do, they're going to give us a report. So meanwhile, you guys can prepare to partake the land that God saw with an oath to your father Abraham, your father Jacob, and Isaac. This is the land, guys. This is the land. And these are your men. Women were not sent. It was not children who were sent. It was men, guys. It was men who were sent. You guys have just written on the chart what comes to your mind when you hear when men lead. Franklin saying a sign of power. Nation saying exactly as God intended. Jonathan says order. Consultant Peter says capabilities, direction. Peter Mbugwa says God's order respected. Shadrach says there is direction. So these men, guys, were giving direction to a multitude, you could say over 2 million people. They are the hem of partaking the promised land. These guys actually came back with a report. I was looking for a picture of how they came back, and this is a picture I could get. I don't know if they can see your screen. Because these men actually came with the fruit. Actually, the verse 23 says that when they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. Out, 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with pomegranates and figs. All right. Augusto, how do you pronounce that name, that fruit? Pomegranate. Help me.
Pomegranates.
Okay. Thanks. So they carried the fruit, guys. They carried the fruits. My friends, they carried the fruits. So you can picture this. The crowd is looking at these men, 12 men coming from a distance. They've been away for 40 days. There's been a sense of anxiety, a sense of what are we going to expect? Then maybe think about it. A child from the crowd just whispers, guys, the men are from the land are coming. Look from the horizons. They are coming. The men are coming. Finally, our leaders are coming. You can see the glow. Today's women's service is She Glows. I think that's the topic they have, that's the title, She Glows. So you can picture the women glowing when they see these men from the horizons. They are seeing these men, man, and their faces are glowing. They're saying, finally. Finally. I don't know how many of us have ever been away from our families. Then you come back and the children are running to greet you. Okay, some of us who have pets like dogs can see the dog wiggling its tail and it's all over you. I have a pet here and he can't just sit. He runs, he jumps on the car. He wants me to open the door. My children, okay, maybe now, maybe because they are teenagers, sometimes the response is a bit different. I don't know about you brothers. But when our children were young, I remember when my dad was away on mission. He was in Kuwait for a whole year. And I remember when we sat down before he left, it was a somber mood, and he was telling us, well, I don't know what will happen to me because I'm going to a war-torn area, but I'll not see you guys for a whole year. So I remember my mom telling him, no, you can't tell the children that. Say something encouraging. And I remember when my dad came back, and he had bought new shoes, he had bought us bicycles, he had bought us new clothes. Man, it was, the man has come back. Dad has come. He was away, he has come back. I remember Augusto narrating to us, I think there's a time he was doing the sermon, he was telling us how he had to look for a gift for his daughters. He even had to get out of his way to get that gift. Because the children were anticipating to see their dad. So that place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. You know, when you have conquest and you have seasons of life, you mark those seasons. And the Israelites were very good at marking their seasons of life. They even called that name, that place, the Valley of Eshcol, so that we remember that these were the first fruits we got from the promised land. So at the end of the 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. They returned at the end of 40 days. Wow. So you can imagine. Let's look at the BAT report. I call it the BAT report. The BAT report. Yeah, have you ever been in a situation where someone gives you a report, but he says, but? Okay. I think, you know, I don't know whether you've experienced that. A lot of times I train the people I work with here, Nathan and the guys who work for me in my business. I always tell them, man, even the media guys, I always tell them, guys, when you communicate not the problem, but the solution of the problem. I always train them that I try to train the men in my life, the young men. I'm training some guys, brothers, and they're not here with us. They're actually helping out the sisters with the live stream, the media, at the Western blog. And these men, Kina Jerry Jones, Nathan, Jason, Rayton, Clinton. When I asked on the media team, who are the men are available at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning to support the sisters, these men said, I am, and I will be there at 8. And because we've been working with them, I didn't even think twice that they will not be there. As a matter of fact, when my wife got to CCU, she asked me, do you have any sisters who are assigned to the media? I said, none, but my men will be there. Actually, confirm to me that they are there. And she sent me a text and said, they are here. Reliable men. Now, when a man says but, now something good is not going to happen there, guys. When someone is sent and they say but, listen to this. He says, they gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us. And it does flow with milk and honey. There's an exclamation mark, meaning that it was a loud statement. He says, and it does flow with milk and honey. It does. Here is its fruit. You can see they are giving Moses the fruit of the land. They say, here is the fruit. It does flow with milk and honey. It does. But now this is hey guys, this is This is hard. This is hard. This is hard. If there's something that my wife, I see her having some sense of disappointment in me, is when I say it, I'm going to do it, and I don't do it. I don't know about the married men here. You know, sometimes we've had those conversations. Sometimes I think I'm the one who has the conversation and the words to speak. Until she starts speaking, man, guys, until my wife starts speaking. And because she's ruminated on these matters for long about the state of our family, about many things that are in our heart. And the good thing about women and our sisters are so detailed. And so if you forgot anything, just ask the sister in your group, and she will tell you what you said and how you say it. How you said it. Our children don't forget, guys. My son comes and tells me, Daddy, you said on this date and this date that we'll do this and that and this. Did you mean it when you said it? Okay. Did you mean it? One of the guys, some of the guys we were training in the ministries is the young guys, like Clive, Wati, who was sharing the communion message and the giving message today. We have 7 young men and women, 2 sisters, 5 brothers. Sometimes we sit down with the men, with the young men and the young women, and they're doing a commendable job. But sometimes the report that sometimes comes out is, hey, Simon, are we serious as a church? You know, are there, are we, do people mean what they say when they say it? And these are I would say, the next generation of leaders who are going to inspire our children, Kina Sean, Kina Lesedi. You know, these are the men that Kevin is also training on campus, the men and women. The other day they had, I don't know whether it's still there. You guys concluded the campus leaders, East Africa campus leaders retreat. Yeah. Men and women, young men and women, leaders from our East Africa region streamed into Nairobi to be trained on how to lead. How beautiful is that, guys? How beautiful is that? I was just overflowing in my heart. I was like, man, if our young men can see their role in the church, man, then our sisters can be calm. Our mothers can be calm. Our children can know we have nothing to worry about. But now when you send men and they say in verse 28, but the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Okay. The question is, what are you saying, man? What are you saying? Leaders of Israel, what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? Are you listening to yourselves? What are you saying? The bad report. Verse 31, he says, but the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They're stronger than we are. We can't attack those people. This is after Caleb stood up and interrupted that report. That's after Caleb stood up and said, no, what are you guys saying? Listen to yourself. What are you saying? At some point, you'll see Caleb and Joshua tearing their clothes. They're like, what are these guys saying? We've been there 40 days, 40 nights. We even have the fruit, but what are these guys saying? Look at this. But they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they explored. Wow, what assignment? Remember, the assignment was go look at the land, tell us is it fertile, is it not fertile, how is the fruit there, come up with an evidence, let us see the fruit. As in, just by the fruits, you could see that even just one branch of the grape, they had to take two men to carry on a pole. One man could not carry one cluster of grapes. You can imagine how big those grapes were. It took two men to carry. They said the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. Now they're even exaggerating. They're saying we saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of the Anak come from the Nephilims. So they saw the Nephilims there. Let me see. Nation says, already very sobering, bro. Preach the word. Everything arises and falls on leadership and conviction. That is so true, Nathan. Every nation, everything. I always tell my leaders here in Kiamba. This time I was talking to a brother in Gashie. I was, hey, why are you guys not having Bible talks? Why? The women are looking up to you guys. And I was telling you, it depends. It rises or drops on leadership. It is so true, guys. Thanks, Nashan, for writing. And guys, you can write on the chat. You know, I don't mind being interrupted. This guy says, we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and you looked the same to them. Wow. You know, one of the things that my mom, because we had I came back to Nairobi at past midnight. I think I was coming back at around 1 a.m. I was so tired. This morning I could hardly wake up, but I had to brave myself because we spent some time with dad and mom, and throughout their narration was that what do we do with the upcoming generation? Dad was just telling me, you've got to be careful, son, how you raise your children. You've got to be careful. Because you're saying that there's going to be a big gap of a generation that will be wiped out. Why? Because he was telling me, he was just referring to one of my cousin, who one of our children there, who is the firstborn of their mom and dad. And he was saying that he can't see a future for that young boy. Wilson is saying a leader must be fearless and always positive. Keep going, bro. I think Kavengelo is saying that. Look at this. You know, I was sometimes I have these heart-to-heart discussions with my wife. I like nowadays I've actually found that the more I speak to my wife and get the bottom of her heart, the more I'm able to keep my heart in check and my responsibilities examined. Because the thing is that, guys, we can be quite good out here. I can preach to you whatever I can, as in I can teach, you know, I can prepare classes, serious classes, man. But it doesn't matter. If my wife, you know, her heart is really aching because of my own doings. I've seen of men who have been exceptional in apologetics. It's a class that we've been teaching in Dakusom, those of us who've joined. And these guys have sort of brought down any thought or or arguments about the existence of God, what? The atheism, brought down atheism, deism, these aspects of saying there is no God. They brought those arguments down. But I've seen after they die, a bad report comes up. Now it's a lawsuit. Shows that this man used to take advantage of women. Wow, I think it's damning lawsuits. Their entire career in preaching God's word was brought down in a day of how they conducted themselves in the secrets of their closets. It's interesting. Proverbs says, a sluggard says, there's a lion outside. I'll be killed in the public square. I'll be killed. I can't go. The faithful report. Let's change our perspective a little bit. Let's look at this faithful report. Because this bad report, this but this, but that, it's never so encouraging, guys. It's never so encouraging. One of the things that we're seeing even in our church, in many churches, the population of women certainly, of course, rises. But sometimes, a lot of times, it's actually as a result of men's activities or their lack of thereof. You know, sometimes you see, there's a time it really, really, really cut my heart when just after service, a sister was driving out, and I asked, let me see, Sam says, don't you think they needed this more realistic report of BAT so that they can adequately prepare to fight and take over the land? How do we as a church balance between pessimism and optimism? How do we balance our different personalities in the army of God, yet remain united? Good thought there. Good thought, Sam. Good thought. Yeah, sometimes the bad report seems to have really carried the day. I'm not saying you don't be realistic about the events of your life. It's almost, you can see how Abraham had his bad report, that his body is as good as dead. I think the guy was old. He was what? By the time God was speaking to him, he was what, 75 years? By the time now the son of a promise comes, the guy is 100 years old. As in, he looks at his wife and says, her womb is as good as dead. So there's that bad report. Yet Abraham, he says, it is credited to him as righteous as why? Because he believed what God had told him. So Sam, you have a point there. The faithful report. Yeah, let me just also respond to him, Sam, as well again, because a lot of times maybe my personality, if I could maybe judge, is that sometimes I see the bad more than I see the good. I'm the kind of person who I see the error first before I see the positives. A lot of times, maybe I tend to be more permissive, I'm not very optimistic a lot of times when I give a report. I'm more pessimistic in my analysis of things. But a lot of times I have to learn to believe what God says about the church as the bride of Christ. I have to believe what God says about my role as a man. I remember when we were in campus in Chiromo, it was difficult to have a Bible talk and still study those maths and physics. It was quite difficult, actually. Those calculations are not easy. Some of the experiments we were doing them in a dark room. You know, when you do mathematics and physics in campus, it was crazy. We're having professors who I remember he was called Dmitry Zaloslo. The guy was a Russian. He was reading Russia and now teaching us in English. It was crazy. I remember telling my brother Anderson, what do we do about a Bible talk? At some point, Anderson was a good friend of mine, baptized him. When I was 6 months old, I reached out to him and baptized him. So we were both baby Christians. You know, and he was telling me, I don't think this Bible talk thing, we don't have time. We don't have time. I remember Shiko, who was a class behind us, told us, okay, me, I can invite people. Okay, me, I can invite people. Anderson said, I don't think I can. I can attend, but I don't think I can host. Then I said, okay, let's meet at my room. I will host it. So let's work it out. It was difficult. Adrian says the problem is not the bad report. The problem is how you handle the bad report. That's true. So eventually what I did, because I like just doing design. So I designed a poster and put it on the walls on our hostels on campus, because we didn't have time to actually go door to door. So I just put a poster and it says Bible talk in this room at this time for 40 minutes. Then after some time, guess who shows up? Many people showed up. Our classmates, we had the best times in Chiromo. I can tell you. We had great discussions, guys. It was so nice. Then someone shows up and reads it and shows up. And actually, the guy becomes a disciple. We end up baptizing him. And the guy is Ernest Okumu. We actually end up baptizing him. Yesterday, he was teaching the class in Acts chapter 10, and he was just narrating his story. He feels that his story is like Cornelius's story, that he just came to know Christ by a vision, and the vision was that poster that he put out. So the thing is not so much the state and the realities of things. Nationally saying I agree, but it reminds me of some years back in UN when I thought I was preparing the team for those who we were going against, only to be shut down because I was instead inflicting fear. How can you communicate fears, limitations, challenges, matters? Yeah, Jonathan says their bad report as presented was more of surrender than to incite strategy. So Caleb says, verse 30, but Caleb silenced the people because had now gotten out of hand. That bad report was not now strategy, like Jonathan is saying. It's not about strategy now. It was spreading fear. Caleb says, we should go up and take possession of the land, and we can certainly do it. So you can see the report was that we cannot do it, guys. The land we pass through. I'm flipping in chapter 14 now. I'm in chapter 14. Numbers, verse 7. Verse 7b says, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. That's Caleb saying that. And he says this, this is where I want you to pick, guys. Because there is a reality of the situation, but also there is what God says and what God's word says. Okay. We can either go by the reality of situations and not apply God's word to the situations in our lives, or we can say, well, guys, wrap up, guys. I don't think we can do anything. Kavengelo is saying, do we have on earth people whose God is not the God of Israel? If no, how would all caring Father of all ask one set of his? Okay, I'm not able to get this. If all humans are created by God, where were they supposed to go after their land is taken? Oh, I think, Kavengelo, you're talking about the inhabitants of the Canaan. If you study well, you find that when God is talking to Abraham, he's telling him that this land that you're standing on, I will give it to, I will not remove the Canaanites now because their sin has not gotten to their peak. If you study that, you find God's judgment on the Canaanites was the Israelites settling in Canaan. In other words, God was passing judgment on the people of Canaan because of their sin. And that's a story, and that's another maybe discussion for another time. But just in a nutshell, just note that God was not treating the Canaanites unfairly, just like in many years to come, the Israelites will have the same judgment because they don't listen to God and they end up even sacrificing their own children to the gods of Molech and so on. The land we possessed, we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, because that's the point, guys. That's the point. If the Lord is pleased with us. This has nothing to do with the men's power to occupy. It has nothing to do with their abilities. It has everything to do with them pleasing God. It has everything to do with us as brothers presenting ourselves before God and say, here I am, use me. The battle was not theirs. It was not their plan. This plan was hatched even before they were born. They stayed in Egypt for 430 years. Before that, God had spoken to their father Abraham. Many years have gone by. This was not their plan. So the things that we partake or we do as disciples, the church, is not really our plan. We didn't hatch it. You know, the evangelization of the world was not really our plan. We are just instruments to be used by God at our time. We pass the baton from one generation to another. It is the work of the Spirit of God to convict men. God partners with us because God can save the whole world if he wanted to. He doesn't have to use us. We are most privileged, brothers, to be used by God in this task. So Caleb says, if God is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us if the Lord is pleased with us. And I think maybe we can pick that. If the Lord is pleased with you, if the Lord is pleased with me, in my conduct, in my attitudes, in my resolve of the heart, if the Lord is pleased with us as brothers in the ICOC movement, in the church, in Nairobi, wherever you're listening to, is the Lord is pleased if we are careful to follow and live in reverence of who God is, then certainly he will do it. Not we who will do it, he will do it in our lives. Only do not rebel against the Lord. That's what Caleb is saying. Only do not rebel against the Lord. And do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. Amatika is saying they seemed silent on the road back. No discussion about their findings in order to have a unified report. Well, the Bible doesn't give us that. But maybe, yeah. Even a bad report that has been meditated upon brings a glimpse of hope. Yeah. Let's look at this coward report. And you see the same thing, because once you read the New Testament, it's the Old Testament unveiled. And you see a man, Stephen, who was full of the Spirit of God and wisdom, looks at the Sanhedrin and the whole team of leaders of Jewish and tells them, guys are just like your forefathers. You are resisting the Holy Spirit. You're just like your ancestors, guys. You're just like your ancestors. You are resisting him. You are resisting him. You are resisting him. And the same way they were trying to stone Joshua and Caleb, is the same way they stoned Stephen. Now, God was not going to have it. And I think this was what really cut my heart, guys. I think I should be finishing. But this really, really what cut my heart, because God is full of mercy. At some point, Moses is going to cry to God. He's going to tell God, now, if you destroy these people, what will the Egyptians say? The Egyptians are going to say that you took the people from Egypt to destroy them in the desert. So God, you're full of mercy and abounding in love. Please don't do this. Don't destroy them. God is so angry. He's asking Moses, how long? How long? How long? How long will these people treat me with contempt? It's not so much the report, it's how you are treating God. He who called you to lead and to be the husband of that woman in your life, that sister. He who called you to be the father of those children, called you to lead that Bible talk, or to call you to lead the singles ministry, to call you to be a man. How we act shows who God is. How we respond shows who our God is. Stephen says the report they gave was direct reflection of what they had in their hearts. The mouth speaks the overflow of the heart, and how we view situations of life is dependent on how great God is to us. Caleb and Joshua had a God-focused response, whereas the 10 had a flesh outwardly based feedback. Even if they would have had discussion on the feedback to give, they likely didn't agree. Our perception at the end of the day boils down to the overriding conviction we settle on. Stephen Onyaga says it takes alignment with God's will to have wisdom that can bring order in chaotic situations. That's so true. A lot of times we look at situations, and brothers and sisters, let me not say sisters, brothers, you go to a country and you can see the sadness in the states. Men are drinking themselves silly, taking advantage of young girls. Like I'm saying that the baby that we buried yesterday, a 9 months baby, the father was not even there. The lady, we just had to hold her hand and bury her baby. The positive thing is that there were twins, baby. One survived, so she could hold the twin sister in her hands as she was laying to rest. The brother. So the At some point, of course, they're going to grumble. Of course, you see that the Israelites are going to say, we want to go back to Egypt. We want to go back to Egypt because our God wants to kill us here. And all that was precipitated by these 10 men. The point is that the trajectory of the church, brothers and sisters, in our lifetime, how the church in Nairobi is going to be in our lifetime is solely dependent on the kind of men we will be. I'm saying that with so much conviction because I've seen it. I've led the church here in Kiambaa for over 10 years. And there are time that came, I think in 2014, 2015, that we lost 16 brothers and sisters just because one man decided to waylay the hearts of those innocent brothers and sisters. One person, one man can change the trajectory of the entire generation. If their faith is in God and they're convicted about it, or if they put their faith on what they want to see, their ego, and pollute everyone else. So we've got to be careful how we lead. God is so angry. You can even feel the anger. He just said, how long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe me? In spite of all the signs I have performed among them? How long? Man, this is so convicting, brothers. I just feel the words of Jesus asking you remember when Jesus was in the mount with the three, James, Peter, and John, and he comes back and he finds the other 9 disciples trying to cast out a demon from this young boy, and they could not. And Jesus' response was, how long will I put up with you guys? How long will I put up with you? If there's something that Jesus rebukes a lot, is this kind of lackluster kind of thing of, I am not sure about God. I'm just there. Faithlessness is something that God does not understand. A lot of times Jesus would rebuke faithlessness. Besides the hypocrisy of the Pharisees and teachers of the law, a lot of times faithlessness will be something that Jesus will not tolerate. So the Lord, of course, in response to Moses, says, "I've forgiven them." And this the thing, brothers, that there are things that we can do in our lives that can really take us in another trajectory, in as much as we'll be forgiven, but the consequences become so severe. Because God says, "I've forgiven them," as you asked. He says, nevertheless, guys, nevertheless, not one of them who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. Man, okay, now, this is heavy. I don't know what you think, Augusto and the rest. What? This is heavy, guys. This is heavy. This is heavy. Verse 33 says, your children will be shepherds here for 40 years. These guys were supposed to get into, they were just supposed to bring the report, then march and conquer. Now their children will be shepherds in the wilderness, suffering for your own unfaithfulness. Now, and my unfaithfulness can really, you might just think it just affects me, but it can go to my children. I'm not saying they'll be guilty for what I do, but the consequences will befall them. You know. And it's heavy, guys. It's heavy. When you see your role as a brother, what do you see? What do you see? We have many sisters in the church who a lot of times I have conversations with, and they tell me, Simon, is this the brother you actually want me to marry? He says, the guy doesn't even show up on appointments. We said, the guy tells me he'll be there, he doesn't come. He doesn't call back. Let me talk to the single brothers. How many of you actually have a diary you've written and you're taking sisters out every week as long as you remain single? How many of you are doing that? I remember when we were dating. Of course, sometimes we say times have changed, but humans are humans. Our sense of connectivity is still etched in us. It doesn't matter which years or which season you live in. We are born for relationships. I remember when we go out, taking sisters out, and when I was taking Shiko out, her diary will be so full. So many brothers were taken out. You have to book several months in advance because her diary is full. And it will be so nice taking sisters out because, brothers, you do not want men who have ill intentions and wickedness in their brains, in their hearts, to take advantage of our sisters because we are not taking them out. You do not want that to happen. God forbid that our sisters in the church should lack men to take them out and treat them special. Because we are busy we are just not, we're just feeling, man, I'm just going through a lot. I'm not. We are here, brothers. We are here. We are here. If you need any help of taking our sisters out, talk to us. We'll help you. If you need a tie, you can borrow mine. If you need a suit, I can give you mine. Okay. If you need some shoes, we can get the shoes. As in, if you need fare, we can send Augusto to tunaweza changa, my friend. We'll put our minds together and make sure that our sisters are cared for. This thing of, hey, we're going through a lot. We're going through a lot. And while you're doing that, there's a daughter of God who in her life, in her former way of life, men took advantage of her. She comes to the church and she finds brothers not serious. Where do you want her to go? Okay. Sometimes I've had, the brothers come in and say, oh, bro, Simon, there's a lady been seen, and well, I'm considering to marry her. Like, okay, bro, this lady, who is she? She's not a sister. She's just, oh yeah, she's a friend. She's a friend. But bro, it's something really wrong, really off, really wrong. Because where do you want the sisters in the church to date? Where? You also want them to bring men and say, okay, let's all date. Well, I'm not saying that And maybe we need to teach more on this about why a lot of times we try and encourage brothers and sisters to date within the fellowship of the church. Because we are a community. We know each other. We deeply care about each other. Brothers and sisters, brothers, I tell you, people who've come to this church, I was talking to a sister and she was telling me, Simon, this church, you guys, there's something about you, about your relationships. You so much value relationships. Yeah, there are a few issues here and there, but you are in so much in each other's lives that I wonder, why are you so much into each other's lives? Well, I told her Jesus Christ was all about relationships. The church is about relationships. It's not so much choosing here and there. Well, it is about foreigners. Morrison is saying, true, this is heavy. Yeah, it is heavy, my brother. I agree with you that the direction the church takes will depend on me. My reverence for God, my desire to please him will make him do things through me. Nation says that safe space for men to have deep, serious conversations is very key. It's key. Disciples must stand out different and separate men of the world. That's so true. And we owe it to each other, brothers. We owe it to each other. Look at these people. Their children will suffer in the wilderness for 40 years until the last of your bodies dies in the wilderness. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land. You will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to the whole wicked community which has banded together against me. They will meet their end in this wilderness. Here they will die. You can even just get the fumes from God's nostrils, if there's that expression. He's just infuriated. He can't understand why these people are deciding to damn their own children because of their own decisions. God sees your faithfulness, brother. Let me just finish it here. I know I think I've taken too much time. Augusto, you need to stop me. Taken too much time here. God sees your faithfulness, brothers. He sees your faithfulness. Like Caleb and Joshua, God sees your faithfulness. I've seen this church, I remember my brother Moses from Kakamega, who took his family and came to look for work here in Nairobi without having anyone telling him that they're going to give him work. He took his family, his 4 children, carried them, came here to look for work. And I asked him, how do you do that? He says he was looking for a church and he found a church where we are staying here in Kiambaa. And he was looking out for disciples. He was here with us for so long. He worked so hard to feed his family. That's a faithful man. I will boast about that, brother. He worked so hard to feed his family. I remember one day I just even wept. He told me, bro, I got a job, but it's not enough. It's not enough. He told me he was weeping on his way back home while he was being rained on because he could afford taking a matatu. But he said, bro, I want to feed my family and I want to be there for my family. We walked with him. And I remember when he told me that he's decided to go back because he got jobs. Brothers here contributed, bought a lot of things. We had baby showers here, celebrating the children. It was amazing. He really encouraged our church here in Kiambaa. When he was going back, he just called me and said, bro, I've decided to go back to Kakamega. I'm praying that he's fine. We talk periodically. But that's a brother who wants to take care of his family, come what may. God sees your faithfulness, brothers. He does. God says, my servant Caleb, has a different spirit. My servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly. I'll bring him into this land we went to, and his descendants will inherit it. And once you read, at 85 years old, Caleb is going to tell Joshua, give me this land that God promised me. Verse 30 in chapter 14, he says, not one of you will enter the land I saw, except Caleb and Joshua. God did not bundle everyone in the same basket. God sees your faithfulness. Too late, at the end of the chapter, the Israelites have a change of heart. Why? Because the 10 leaders were murdered, were killed by God. A plague ravaged the place and they all died, the 10 leaders. Suddenly, the Israelites have a change of heart. Because when they had this report, they mourned bitterly. And now, early the next morning, look at what they said. Early the next morning, they set out for the highest point in the hill country, saying, now we are ready to go up to the land the Lord promised. Surely we have sinned. Surely we have sinned. It was too late. It was too late, brothers. It was too late. It was too late. It was too late. It was too late. So it was too late. It was too late. God forgave them, but you can read on. They were beaten up by the Amalekites. They were given a thorough beating. God was not with them. Sometimes it's nothing as scary as seeing the consequence of our decisions. Sometimes we can dilly-dally. Yeah, I'll attend Bible talk here. Well, not. I will be there for Bible talk. Hey, I'm busy, guys. I'm busy. Busy. The rate of promiscuity among brothers it's alarming. You know, sometimes you hear reports and you just weep. Just weep. Weep for our sisters. Because God takes care of even those who've been neglected. Yeah, nation, some topics need a whole day. They need a whole day. Can we as men have a way forward in order to put action to this message? Be courageous enough to put a plan together? Yeah. It's not so much, yeah, I know, talking about developing the Kangemi land, yeah. But I'm talking about our hearts. Talking about our hearts, brothers. Where are the reliable men? Paul says, don't just entrust the word of God to anybody. I'm not talking about buying land or building. Yeah, these things we can do. You can do. You don't necessarily really have to be godly to do these things. But you have to be godly to be loving to your wife. Got to raise your children. You've got to be godly to lead the Bible talk. You've got to be godly to be there and say, I'll not miss it. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Not so much the things, yeah, we can develop things, yeah, we can do it. But not righteous people. Not everyone can actually lead the church. Not everyone can lead the Bible talk. You've got to walk with God. So where are the Calebs, Joshua, Stevens, Pauls, Peters, Abrahams? Where are they? I pray that this has been maybe something that you can not just even think about, but like my brother is saying, take action on. Meet in your Bible talks, in your group, small groups, in sectors. ask, not just mere talk, but plan prayers, times of praying together. Study the Bible together. For the single brothers and brothers, come together, form a group and say, this is a calendar. We are going to take our sisters out. We ensure all the sisters can say, before I get married in this group, it's a group that will set out, take our sisters out and treat them special. It's very sensitive, yeah. One that requires all of us critical approach, help sisters and brothers. That's true, Kavengelo. It's very sensitive, these topics. You know, and we have to do it as married men. Plan with your wife. Invite Clive and a sister to your home. Make sure that Clive comes with a sister to your home and have this. Anyway, I think my heart really goes out to the brothers and sisters in the sequence ministry and also the young men, but also all of us. Thank you so much. I think I've spoken too much. Thank you, guys. May God bless you. I don't know.